All right,
Hello,
good
everyone.
morning. Go ahead, Francesca, introduce yourself. Welcome to
I
CMS
don't
Philly.
want to take away your job.
That's okay. Welcome, everybody. This is CMS Philly. We're here for our 10 a.m. session, Selfish Contributions. We are privileged to have Francesca Marano present this session to us. I would say you want to save questions until the end. And Francesca has also provided a copy of the deck as a handout. You should be able to see and download that while you're here. That'll also be provided along with the recording if you're watching this later. All right, Francesca, it's all yours. Take it away.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I don't know where you're tuning in from, but I really want to start by thanking the organizers for the hard work you put into moving the event online. I hope I'll make it next year in Philly, which is one of my favorite cities in the US. So hopefully next year we'll see each other in person. So what are we here to talk about? We're here to talk about contributing to open source and do it selfishly instead of selflessly. I know it's a bold statement, so let's go. My name is Francesca. I'm the WordPress Community and Partnerships Manager at SiteGround, independently owned a web hosting company with over 16 years of experience. It's actually part of my job to share knowledge, which is amazing. I feel very lucky, of course. And I got this job through contribution. So this is also why I'm a big believer that it's a very good way also to move forward. And sometimes I tell my own stories. Sometimes I talk about experiences that are more common, and knowledge that comes from my talented team. In addition, I am very active in the WordPress.org project in two teams mainly. Well, only to be honest, the community and core. I was the release lead for the last two major WordPress releases, so 5.3 and 5.4. And I'm streaming from Torino, Italy right now from my bedroom, and the bed is unmade. I hope you can relate. So I always say that my path to contribution was really random and completely accidental. I am the daughter of two programmers, as we used to call them at the time, that started in the late 60s. And I dabbled in front-end development before JavaScript became the standard. I have a deep knowledge of HTML and CSS, but because I'm not a back-end developer, I never thought I could make a difference in an open source project, because the only thing that open source software need is developers, right? No, absolutely, absolutely wrong. So I put this slide here with a little bit of my path to contribution. So before joining SiteGround, I was a freelancer that made websites for freelancers. I am not ashamed to call myself a website maker, because basically my job was really to take either pre-existing themes and customizers, and obviously add some functions and stuff like that, and maybe work with the developer on that. But I never really intended to fully dedicate my time to development. And I did my first contribution without knowing that I was contributing to something. At some point, a customer of mine at the time, a client of mine at the time, needed to use a plugin for her online shop. So I translated the whole plugin with the Mo and Po files, and then compiled everything and sent it back to the plugin developers and say, hey, I translated it, you might as well have it. So that's how I started without knowing that I started. But then in 2015, I I was made aware by some friends that WordPress actually has an amazing structure for contributors to organize their contributions, and then they helped me get started. So I first started translating. I first started contributing to the Polyglots team, which is the team that helps with translation and internationalization of WordPress, and then I moved on. Not moved on. I decided that my true calling was the community team, which is the team that oversees and supports all the official WordPress events around the world. And I talked about it in my previous session. I hope you will catch it on a recording. In 2017, I joined the SiteGround. They were looking for a community manager. And despite me not being one by trade, I was picked amongst very worthy and experienced candidates, and a big number of them. And one of the reasons was because I was so active in the project, and I was showing up continuously, helping out and doing the work. So joining a company that supports a lot of open source project and supports its employees in their open source contribution allows me to dedicate more time to WordPress right now. And so this is why I was able to be heavily involved with the last two releases. But this is an aside. I don't think you need to be sponsored to make a difference in any WordPress in any open source release. My co-lead David Baumwald is a full stack developer from Florida. He's self-employed, and he did an amazing job during these two releases. So it happens for me that this path that went from making website to becoming a release co-lead of a major piece of software also goes through the generosity of my company. And why SiteGround is absolutely okay sponsoring 2 days a year, 2 days, sorry, a week for me to work on WordPress. We are deeply involved with open source. Our business is based on open source, so we contribute to the Linux kernel in a major way. We're probably the hosting company with the majority number of patches submitted, at least we were last year. And we are also very involved with WordPress, especially in core. Gutenberg, which if you're not familiar with, is the plugin that develops the block editor that is now the default of WordPress. Security, one of my colleagues is involved in the security team, in the community team. We organize events across basically every country where we are present, and we sponsor a lot of WordCamps and translations. We have employees from a lot of different parts of the world, so we can contribute in this way. So let's dive into open source contribution and why it's okay to be selfish. So you have probably heard a million times about this book, The Cathedral and the Bazaar by Eric Raymond. And after almost 30 years, I think it's still a must read for everyone who's dealing with open source. I don't know if you read it. It's really a booklet. You can also read it online, and it's kind of short, but I do refer back to it quite often when I need some motivation or where I need some clarification on something. And it's divided in lessons, and I want to focus on two that really allowed me to be selfish in my contribution. So the lesson one: every good work of software, and probably the most famous, every good work of software starts by scratching a developer's personal itch, and not just a developer's personal itch. As I said, I started because I needed to translate something for a client. So I think this is still very much true, and this is still very much the reason why most people start contributing, especially to development. You need to start somewhere, right? And starting from something that you need a solution for is a great way to do it because you need that anyway, right? So it might be something that puzzles you, it might be something that inspires you, or it might be a bug that you have found and is blocking your work, and then you set out to fix it so you can make your life easier, basically. And the lesson 18, which is a corollary of the first one, to solve an interesting problem, start by finding a problem that is interesting to you. So you see, basically, these two lessons make it clear that we are the masters of our contributor destiny, and we should definitely pick something that is interesting for us, that we want to fix, that we want to make better, or whatever. So yes, basically be selfish. If you pick something you use every day, you will be more motivated to continue working on it. So because it's useful for your work, you, for example, can report a bug, you can fix the same bug, or you can contribute to someone else a bug, or you can write the documentation for something that you used and was lacking the documentation, and you're doing it for yourself, and it's fine. Get involved. The next step would be getting involved with the project. This already requires like an active participation in the life of the project. So for example, you could attend the chat and calls. You might not even post or say anything, but lurk around, and it's absolutely fine because there's tons to learn also in these occasions. You can connect with people, which is kind of a way of networking online, I would say. And don't forget to be polite. This is something that it's very important. A lot of open source projects have a code of conduct. And even if our life is now completely online, it's very important to make this experience of contributing pleasant for everyone. And then you learn from the project. So on the way from reporting a bug to starting being more active, you can learn also things that are not necessarily related to the project itself you're working with, or they're not related to your job, but you can still learn them and treasure them for other aspects of your life. For example, by contributing to WordPress.org, my English improved immensely. If I go look at my first talk in English from 2016, I am, I kind of sound, it's not that I don't sound now like a cliche Italian speaking English, but even more. So that's one thing, for example, that I learned by contributing to WordPress. Other things could be tools that you use. Slack. I never heard of Slack before. I joined the WordPress Slack instance. Now I wish I never heard of Slack because I find it super distracting. But once I started working at SiteGround and they said like, "Oh, are you familiar with Slack?" I was like, "Sure, I am." So stuff like that. But the two most important things probably that I learned by contributing to WordPress are project management and conflict resolution. A lot of nonviolent communication, a lot of how to deflate communication that might arise. Maybe they're not necessarily getting very heated, but sometimes you have to put a stop to a conversation because maybe it's not the right time or it's not going into the right direction, and you need to know how to do that while being polite, as I said in the previous slide. And in turn, I got a lot. As I said, English is something that I learned, so new skills, new connections. I met the people at SiteGround at a WordCamp, which are the WordPress conferences, and new professional opportunities. Finally, I got hired by SiteGround because they met me through contributing to WordPress. And this is also true for companies. So basically, SiteGround contributes to the Linux kernel because that's vital for our business. So we want to make the software or whatever it is better because we want it to make safer to be used. The other thing that I think a lot of people that work for companies and get in touch with with people with similar positions in other companies, which is something that happens a lot in open source, is the nerding out with the like-minded people. Like I can tell you that in the WordPress project, there is a hosting team, and representatives from every major hosting company in the WordPress space is there, and they collaborate on a lot of stuff, because at the end of the day, it's true, it's competing companies, but it's also people that deeply care about what they do. So they like nerding out with other people in the same position. And recognition, why not? We see this in a lot of open source projects. If your company is giving back a lot to the project, that it's very involved, it gets a good reputation. So that's good for business. So this is a quote that exemplifies what I said in the previous one. I don't have my reading glasses here, so I will have to go a little bit closer to the screen. So this is one of our Linux kernel developers. We did an interview with him a few years ago, and actually it really exemplifies what I said in the previous slides. So we strive to identify security risks. We often have discussions with the core Linux developers. We try to contribute whenever we can. So far, we've written hundreds of kernel patches, dozens of which are part of the mainline Linux kernel code. So that's everything in that sentence. That's the making the software better for everyone, chatting with people that do something similar to you, and making it better altogether. So when you look for a contribution, you will find the adjective selfless connected to it a lot of time. Now, the word selflessness for me personally is problematic, mainly because I'm not an English speaker. So basically, to a foreign ear, this sounds like you're removing yourself from the equation, selflessness. So that thing happens without you. But you're actually the biggest resource in this process. So I prefer words as generosity and altruism. So be generous, be selfish, but also be generous. So this is where your selfishness in contributing to open source becomes about the others. So I see this a lot in contributors. I love observing people. I am a nightmare to go to lunch with, because if I catch a conversation in the room that is interesting for me, I will stop listening to you, person I'm having lunch with, and just tune into that conversation. So I love observing people. So I see this a lot. At first, we come in with tons of energies. We want to learn, we want to do, we want to attend, we propose, we fix, we give feedback, we are vocal, we attend every chat, we write proposals, it's full time. Like you go in, you dive headfirst. And then I see a lot of people, including myself, we move a little bit in the background, and we start helps other going through the first step. So the first step is all about learning. The second step is all about teaching, and they're both very important. And so let's go back to Eric Raymond and lesson number 5, that I think that says, when you lose interest in a program, your last duty to it is to hand it off to a competent successor. Now, I think this lesson speaks both about being selfish. If something doesn't interest you anymore, give it away, walk away. Don't be bitter and keep doing that thing because you feel you need to. So it's okay to be selfish and move away, but also be generous with the person that is coming after you, hopefully, to maintain that project, and put them in the condition to do the best possible work by, for example, writing documentation. So here are some examples that, I found myself being selfish first and generous later. And I found, and in all of these cases, I found that having a clear process, a clear documented process helped immensely everyone. So for example, a few years ago, I founded a blog for female entrepreneurs in Italy, and it's in Italian only. And last year in December, the blog has been going on for 6 years. I cannot take care of it anymore. I'm also not a female entrepreneur anymore. I'm an employee. So I gave it away to a group of women that were interested in moving forward with it because it was possible. The whole process made it seamless, and it's, you know, they keep writing and they keep thriving. Or helping my colleagues with giving talks. I have been now giving talks around 20, 25 a year as an average for 3 years. People help me get better so I can help others get better. And, you know, in return, they're going to be grateful, but they're also going to represent again our company very well out in the space. So I have every interest in helping out in this way. Or when something, a problem, an issue in any of the project I work in become a bit complex, and you need a so-called working group that will evaluate that specific issue, then the fact that I know what's going on and I learned about it helps me delegate and recruit, for example. And of course, documentation. I think documentation is the biggest gift we can do to open source projects. I always say that it's a great investment for the legacy of any project. So after years of solid contribution, I still think that asking yourself, what's in it for me? It's absolutely fine. And it's actually what will help you maintain a long-term and successful contribution process, because that's another thing that I observed a lot of time. People come in, they're super enthusiastic, they put a lot of effort into things, and then they disappeared because they didn't pace themselves, and they didn't, you know, maybe they came in with only selfish motives, and then when they didn't get what they wanted, they got demotivated, or they came in only with the idea that this is an act of selflessness, and then suddenly their work wasn't didn't get the feedback they were expecting, even though they say that they were in for helping others, and then they moved away. So I think being very clear on what is your objective in contribution is very important, because the fact that you want to make the software better is a given. Like, if you didn't want to make the software better, you wouldn't become a contributor in any of the aspects that make this piece of software. So that's a given. So what's next? What's in it for you? What do you expect? So it's not an I want to make it clear, it's not profit driven. I'm not talking about what's in it for me. Can I make more money out of this? Or can I raise my profile to go look for another job? We will get to that. But I think, for example, the sense of accomplishment and pride you feel when you make a change, I think it's a big mood enhancer. The worse my day is going, the more I turn to contributing, to feel that I'm making a difference for millions of people. So, you know, for me, this is my main what's in it for me. I don't think I have the words to describe how it felt being part of WordPress 5.3, which was the first major release that I co-led, and sitting in my living room in Torino, Italy, and seeing we take a screenshot of the counter of how many times the software has been downloaded, and you know, it's like close to 50 million people, and then it resets, and in a few seconds it goes up to thousands of people, and that's, I don't think there are very few, let's say maybe not the only, but it's one of the proudest moments of my life, and I am absolutely honest about this. It felt really, really incredible to being able to do this. Validation is important. It's great to have positive feedback. It's great when you work on something, having someone say, hey, you know, that's true, that's or this is really correct. So that's also something that makes us I think it's it's a good feeling when you contribute. Recognition is also important. And it comes in different forms. If you have kids, you might have used a system of rewards, especially when they were little, and if they finished their tasks. And most parents I talked to said that it was an excellent system. And basically, any gamification process is based on this. You get rewarded somehow, and you know, so it's not recognition, it's rewards. So in open source, a lot of time there are no rewards, monetary rewards, but there's a lot of recognition. And I put new skills and a better CV last for a simple reason, because if this is the only motivation you have to contribute to open source, and your contribution is clearly only selfish and not good selfish, like not I want to meet new people and I want to feel proud of my accomplishment, but I want to show that I'm good so someone will hire me, I have very bad news for you. I've been talking to a lot of friends that work for companies that that hire from open source software pools, let's call it, and they're using at this point the recruiters are very clear on, they kind of recognize who's doing it just for themselves and who's doing it because they want to make the software better, they want to learn new things, they want to do all the things we talked before, and now they're looking for a job. There's a big difference. It's not even something that I can describe, but it's something that I have very clear in my mind because I've seen the process I went through, and I've seen the process other friends went through, and I see the process that people that didn't make it. So to sum it all up, I would like to finish with a quote from one of the WordPress core committer. He's a former release lead and is also my partner in life. And I happened to meet him at a contributor day. So contributing is always a good idea. So make it better and give it back. This is what John Blackburn always says. And no matter what pushes you to make it better, give it back so others can enjoy it and maybe, probably make it even better. So here are some resources that I prepared for you, and the slides are in the GoToWebinar. And that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed my bold view on why you should contribute. And if you have any question, you can ask them here, or if you're seeing this as a recording, you can tweet at me at Francesca Marano, or you can send me an email. I'm a bit of a slow responder, but I respond every time. So it's francesca.marano@siteground.com. And that would be it from me. Thank you for having me. If you do have questions, I think now is the time. Chris, do you confirm? Let me go into the webinar. Questions. I see no questions, but I really would love to if you don't have questions, but you have opinions on this, I would be really, really grateful to hear your side of the story. As I said, I observe and I like to hear other people experiences.
Francesca, let's unmute everybody then. If anybody has a question, please feel free to raise now.
Unmute all. Managed to do it. Maybe you did ask and I didn't unmute you. Is everyone able to talk now?
Let's see if that worked. They can still mute themselves. Okay, so they should be able to unmute themselves if they have any questions.
Oh, I think I unmuted everyone now because I see that I see two muted. Hi, I see a hand. So
yeah,
when
Jeff,
there's a
you have a question, please.
Well, how do I bring Jeff on screen if he wants to be on screen with us?
Oh, no, it's okay. Sorry. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was actually just trying to figure out the controls, but I really loved the talk. And I'm with Apostrophe, which is an open source CMS as well, in Node. And so, yeah, I just was really loving hearing about like what inspired you to get involved and
Thanks.
really your whole approach. So yeah, thank you so much. I don't really have a specific question.
Thank you. Thank you for being here this morning. Where are you? Where are you based?
Philadelphia.
Oh, I love Philadelphia. I cannot wait to visit.
It's a great place.
It's a great place. You have a wonderful city and with a thriving tech community, by the way. So it's really a great place.
Thank you.
I see. Okay, I used GoToWebinar years ago, so I'm not very familiar with all the. I see a triangle next to a name, and I don't know what that means.
All right.
But if no one else has questions or wants to tell their stories, which I would like to hear, I think, Chris, that's it for us today.
Okay, great. Well, Francesca, thank you so much for taking the time to present your presentation. This was really, really insightful and exciting. Thank you to all our attendees for coming. And again, the handouts, if you're interested, you have a copy of the deck you can download for attendees, and this will be uploaded to the cmsphilly.org website. And for those of you viewing this remotely after our presentation, after our conference day, please come back to CMS Philly in the future. We're going to be planning our next session, our next event for next year. Hopefully we'll be all together in Philly.
Yes.
And thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Have a great day.